Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times, a Prancing Pony podcast production. I'm the Man of the West, and it's time to wrap up week 94 with Silmarillion Saturday. Now, these Saturdays are our chance to revisit the history and legends of the Elder Days, whether from the Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, or more. This series, I've been giving you a prologue or backstory to what we've been looking at on First Age Fridays in the story of Tuor and his coming to Gondolin. Last week, we finished the tragic story of Aredhel as we finished the chapter of Maeglin. Today, we start of the ruin of Beleriand and the fall of Fingolfin. Over the rest of this series and next, we'll read about the Dagor Bragollach, Fingolfin's challenge of Morgoth, Barahir and his outlaws, the rise of Sauron, and the arrival of men. And it will be two of those men, Hurin and Huor, who will tie this story together with Tuor and his coming to Gondolin. For now, though, we go back in time about 40 years from our story with Tuor to a little before the year of the sun 455 in the First Age. Chapter 18 of the Ruin of Beleriand and the Fall of Fingolfin. Now Fingolfin, king of the north and high king of the Noldor, seeing that his people were become numerous and strong, and that the men allied to them were many and valiant, pondered once more an assault upon Angband. For he knew that they lived in danger while the circle of the siege was incomplete, and Morgoth was free to labor in his deep mines, devising what evils none could foretell ere he should reveal them. This counsel was wise according to the measure of his knowledge, for the Noldor did not yet comprehend the fullness of the power of Morgoth, nor understand that their unaided war upon him was without final hope, whether they hasted or delayed. But because the land was fair and their kingdoms wide, most of the Noldor were content with things as they were, trusting them to last, and slow to begin an assault in which many must surely perish, were it in victory or in defeat. Therefore they were little disposed to hearken to Fingolfin, and the sons of Feanor at that time least of all. Among the chieftains of the Noldor, Angrod and Aegnor alone were of like mind with the king, for they dwelt in regions whence Thangorodrim could be descried, and the threat of Morgoth was present to their thought. Thus the designs of Fingolfin came to naught, and the land had peace yet for a while. But when the sixth generation of men after Beor and Marach were not yet come to full manhood, it being then 400 years and 55 since the coming of Fingolfin, the evil befell that he had long dreaded, and yet more dire and sudden than his darkest fear. For Morgoth had long prepared his force in secret, while ever the malice of his heart grew greater and his hatred of the Noldor more bitter. And he desired not only to end his foes, but to destroy also and defile the lands that they had taken and made fair. And it is said that his hate overcame his counsel, so that if he had but endured to wait longer until his designs were full, then the Noldor would have perished utterly. But on his part he esteemed too lightly the valor of the elves, and of men he took yet no account. There came a time of winter, when night was dark and without moon, and the wide plain of Ardgallan stretched dim beneath the cold stars, from the hill forts of the Noldor to the feet of Thangorodrim. The watchfires burned low, and the guards were few. On the plain, few were waking in the camps of the horsemen of Hithlam. Then, suddenly, Morgoth sent forth great rivers of flame that ran down swifter than Balrogs from Thangorodrim, and poured over all the plain, and the mountains of iron belched forth fires of many poisonous hues, and the fume of them stank upon the air, and was deadly. Thus Ardgallan perished, and fire devoured its grasses, and it became a burned and desolate waste, full of a choking dust, barren and lifeless. Thereafter its name was changed, and it was called Anfauglith, the gasping dust. Many charred bones had there their roofless grave, for many of the Noldor perished in that burning, who were caught by the running flame and could not fly to the hills. The heights of Dorthonion and Eredwethrin held back the fiery torrents, but their woods upon the slopes that looked towards Angband were all kindled, and the smoke wrought confusion among the defenders. Thus began the fourth of the great battles, Dagor Bragollach, the Battle of Sudden Flame. There's a part of me that wonders, what if Fingolfin had been successful in persuading the rest of the Noldor to attack Morgoth earlier? I mean, come on, it makes sense. Let's do this now. But the text really does give us that answer, doesn't it? Not only did they not yet comprehend the fullness of the power of Morgoth, they did not understand that their unaided war upon him was without final hope. That's a hard truth to hear, but it's completely accurate. The doom of Mandos was working its way to completion, and as Ulmo had told Turgon years before when he was preparing to leave Vinyamar for Gondolin, the true hope of the Noldor lieth in the west and cometh from the sea. Now, with the men, they went through a few generations. That meant they could survive and grow. The Grey Annals tells us that Fingolfin considered this assault in 422, about 33 years before the Dagor Bragollach, so we do get an extra generation of men. In the year of the sun, 455 of the First Age, the evil befell that Fingolfin had long dreaded. Morgoth attacked. And this was no ordinary assault. He led with the forces of the earth itself. Remember that Melkor was, in his beginning, the most powerful of the Valar. The other Valar built lands, and Melkor destroyed them. Valleys they delved, and Melkor raised them up. Mountains they carved, and Melkor threw them down. This is the same guy who made the Thangorodrim from the ash and slag of his subterranean furnaces. This guy has power. And it's as though the earth itself is turning against the elves. Rivers of flame, poisonous fires and fumes, and more. For now, though, folks, that does it for this week's Silmarillion Saturday. Thank you for joining me. Come back next week as Glaurung makes an appearance and Barahir saves Finrod, an act that will lead to so much. And don't forget to tune in to the first episode of Season 10 of the Prancing Pony podcast tomorrow, as Sean Marchese, the Lord of the Mark himself, joins me for a chat with Daniel Falconer and Leonard Ellis from Weta Workshop. Please visit patreon.com/Tolkien Times to learn how you can get an ad-free feed, bonus episodes, and become a part of my content council to help decide what I'll talk about next series. Podcast listeners, please be sure to subscribe to the show in your apps. Those of you on YouTube, click the subscribe button to get all of the PPP productions. And be sure you're following @PrancingPonyPod on all your social media. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.